there is an officially supported way to run DaVinci Resolve on Linux. So yeah, like even that is there. So the Linux situation has become, it is so like just light years ahead of where it was even 5 years ago, in terms of being something that you could potentially do. And it really comes down to, you know, I think a lot of it comes down to just like the games you play and if those games have anti-cheat or not. Because I think on an application, you know, the application perspective, like there are so many open source alternatives. So many of the things I use on a day-to-day basis are already open source. And so, you know, of course there's a Linux equivalent in a lot of these situations. Like I am not as comfortable with Linux as I am with Windows. Like, you know, I've just been using Windows for much longer. And so pulling a Windows install apart and putting it back together and fixing problems when they arise, like I am pretty decent at that. Whereas when Linux breaks, depending on how it breaks, there's a certain point that I always reach with a Linux install where I go, oh shit, I need to wipe this entire machine and start over because I don't know what the fuck I just broke. And I've been running Docker containers a lot lately. I've been running them on Windows, but it's, you know, it's definitely kind of getting me into a little bit more kind of terminal bash prompt, like fuck around type stuff with Linux in a way where you can just scrap the container and start over and not have to do a full format with you know, the stupid shit that I'm running. And so that's been, you know, that's been fun. That's been just fun to do. And it's kind of getting me a little more used to it. You know, I have a MacBook Pro that I bought last year thinking that I was going to be traveling more, and then immediately canceled the trips I was planning on going on. So that worked out great. But that's a heck of a machine, and that's got, you know, that's got a similar terminal and all that stuff as well. So I don't know, man. I like the Mac. Like people really swear by Mac Mini, the current Mac Mini, in terms of just like power and stuff. Like for, you know, if you're not playing games, like, you know, that's a pretty neat option as well. But yeah, Linux is just about there. Or I don't know, like, you know, you can always make it friendlier. You know, we talk about it. Windows has a long way to go, right? That's the one of the bigger tests of this Xbox branded device launching this week, is that Windows is still not something that's ready, that's truly friendly to people that don't use computers. I could maybe say a Mac is a little bit, because they obfuscate a few more things on a Mac, and you know, now they're just, everything's just so tied into iCloud anyway. That gets back to my point, is what are you really doing on a computer that you're not, that isn't just, I am using a thing in a web browser. I'm checking my email in a web browser. You know, how many native apps do you run on your computer? You know, it depends. Are you editing video and audio? Like, those are very real scenarios. That's what I do most of the time. Is, you know, I'm shuffling shit around. I'm leveling audio files. I'm exporting them. I'm uploading them in a web browser. I'm putting them here. I got this stuff set up over here. I got an emulator that, you know, talks to a WebDAV server, and, you know, like all this other shit set up. But like most of that stuff exists. I saw, you know, while we're talking about operating systems here, before we get into the news, I saw that Google was looking to lock down Android and make it harder to sideload things onto it, and that emulator authors were worried that that emulators might find themselves, you know, whether it's being kicked out of the Google Play Store entirely or what have you, that there would be a lot more roadblocks in the way when it comes to installing, sideloading things onto Android machines. I don't know how far that's going to go, but I just look at that and, like, wasn't that the whole point of Android? And the answer, of course, is no. The whole point of Android is for Google to harvest a lot of interesting data and sell it and all the other fun stuff that Google does, because they're Google. So I don't know. Like, you know, now at this point, it's like, okay, are we installing Lineage OS on phones now? Are we balling out that hard? Like, what's going on? We'll see what actually happens. That stuff hasn't rolled out yet. I think that was just like something that, you know, was a suggested path that Google is apparently on. But, you know, I don't know, like generally speaking, Android has been a better platform for emulation than iOS because Apple does not let you sideload things easily in this country anyway. And even outside of this country, it's, you know, even in the stores where they did open it up, it's still not simple to do it. And so some of the things I was reading about what Google was doing was making it sound like, oh, you're going to put up all the hoops that Apple users make everyone jump through to do this shit, aren't you? You're going to lock it down that way. And there's some stuff on iOS that you just can't do through Apple's store that would benefit more high-end emulators. Things that are trying to emulate newer systems and stuff would take advantage of the full power of the system. But because of the way that Apple restricts just-in-time compilers and all that other stuff, like you are kind of locked out of stuff. Whereas Android does not have that restriction currently. It's weird, man, to think about it. Because, like, that was the whole point, is people were like, oh, Android, that's the Linux of phone OSs. And you're like, yeah, yes, it is. But also, no, it is not. And so someone needs to, I don't know if it's Lineage OS or what the actual best option for, like, if you want a good de-Googled Android-based, like, Android-style OS for an Android phone. I don't know what your options are these days, but I don't know, man. It's all bad. In conclusion, it's all bad. Let's take our final ad break, and then we'll come back and we will get into the news after this. It is once again time to upgrade your underwear. That's right. Fall is here. It's getting wet outside, and if not wet, then at least cold. You know, you're wearing layered clothing that sometimes can have the opposite effect. I don't know. Sometimes you're literally sweating your balls off in these layers of clothing. You need underwear that can stand up to anything. You need MeUndies. MeUndies underwear are ridiculously soft. You know, you'll never want to take them off. They're made with this micro-modal fabric that feels like a cloud. They still breathe when things heat up. So, you know, if you're wearing layers and you're going outside and it's cold outside and it's hot inside, you know, sometimes you just get that weird, like, my skin is sweating under my clothes and I can't handle it. MeUndies is up to the task. And they're stretchy. So, you know, whatever you're doing, even if you're crushing wings on the couch, MeUndies has you covered. And hey, Halloween's right around the corner. MeUndies has limited edition Halloween line here with fun, festive prints, including glow-in-the-dark underwear, which is always fun, I find. They've got a style for everyone. A cut for every butt, as they say, over 20 different styles in 100 different colors and prints. That micro-modal fabric is breathable, stretchy, cozy, perfect for crisp mornings, chilly nights, and everything in between. If you're layering up for a hike, if you're lounging around all day, MeUndies moves with you, keeps you comfortable. And there's the Breathe line, which is designed with moisture-wicking and anti-odor technology to help keep you fresh through, you know, fall workouts. Now, you're out at like a pumpkin patch walking around. You're out there walking around? MeUndies! They also use sustainably sourced materials and work with partners that care for their workers. And hey, guess what? If you're not happy with your first pair of undies, it's on MeUndies. But you're going to be happy. With more than 30 million pairs sold and 90,000 five-star reviews, MeUndies are an essential must-have for every drawer. I'm finding more and more often that this ends up being true. I am wearing MeUndies undies right now. And nothing else. Right now, if you're in the sound of my voice, you can get cozy and spooky for less with deals up to 50% off at MeUndies.com/Jeff and enter the promo code Jeff. That's MeUndies.com/Jeff and the promo code Jeff for up to 50% off MeUndies comfort that's made for fall. They're going to make another Xbox. talked about that last week. But now we've got some alleged details. These details come to us from Moore's Law is Dead, which is the YouTube channel where I first heard of it when this channel had dev portal documentation of the PlayStation 5 Pro before it had been announced. And I took a look at it and went like, okay, yeah, that all sounds like it's probably legit. That ended up being pretty dead on. And they have gone on over there to have some updates about the next PlayStation. I think we were talking about that 1 or 2 weeks ago. And now he's reporting something about what could be the internals of the next Xbox, the AMD Magnus APU. Not really a ton of information here. You know, he's trying to break it down, and this is, you know, and videogameschronicle.com did a bang-up job recapping this as well. Kind of trying to place it as to like, oh, would it be more powerful or less powerful than a PlayStation 6? Which is, I think, kind of crazy, you know, work to be doing right now when even the PlayStation 6 specs were going off of leaks upon leaks upon leaks with that as well. But the upshot here of, you know, kind of his takeaway from it is that the Magnus could theoretically be more powerful than the PlayStation 6, though obviously more expensive, and that it will probably need more RAM and some of these other things as a result of some of the same speculation I think a lot of us have been doing here, especially if the next Xbox is also a computer. If it is a more open-ended device and not just a closed and extremely bespoke console, which, again, in a world where everything is an Xbox, and this week they're shipping this partner device with your friends at Asus, your best friends, your best buds, tell them I said hi, that would make sense. One little angle here that I thought was interesting, you know, we can go to, you know, if you want to see the stats and all this other stuff, I would recommend going and watching the video rather than me recapping a recap here. But the idea here that he comes to as he's pulling through all of this stuff is that if Microsoft has their own device out and it's an Xbox and it's still a PC and it's still running Windows or whatever, that this might also be an effective check against price gouging or price increases on behalf of partner devices. You know, as the kind of handheld PC market continues to grow, or if other kind of OEMs decide to make their own similar devices, if Microsoft is out there with a device that, you know, they charge $1,000 for, I don't know, $1,500. Like what, you know, what are they charging for this thing? Like probably a lot of money. If it ends up being more powerful than a PS6 and we're talking about a PC, like what case are you going to make for this that makes it a reasonable price, especially in this day and age when nothing is reasonably priced? Like I don't, you know, does this thing end up being $1,000, $1,200, $800? Like what range of pricing does an Xbox PC end up coming in at? Especially, you know, like this APU, from the look of the specs, it's not cheap. You know, it's a pretty high-end thing. So compared to, again, we're days away from $1,000 handheld Windows machine about to come out, and that's just running like a Z2 Extreme or something, which is like cool for that form factor. Anyway. Basically, you know, I think, you know, his kind of ray of hope coming out of this is that, like, and the quote here is, this is going to be viewed, I believe, as a cost-optimized, mass-produced device that can potentially put a check on OEMs and pre-builts overcharging for their gaming desktops. For example, let's say Asus wants to sell you a pre-built with a 4070 in it for $2,500. How could they possibly get away with something like that if there's an Xbox console out there that runs some version of full Windows 11 and actually has RTX 5080 or better raster and possibly around 5090 ray tracing performance? And the answer is that Asus won't be able to get away with that anymore. If there's an Xbox hybrid console out there that's $1,200 or heck, even $1,500, this will spank OEMs and keep their prices and greed in check, which is good for PC gamers. I think that's an interesting angle. That is making a lot of assumptions, I think, about what Microsoft will do, how Microsoft will position their device, and if it takes off enough to actually have that effect on OEMs, right? Dan Dagan says, even if the Xbox is cheap and more powerful than a PlayStation 6, Microsoft can't make a game, so people might still trust Sony's developer record. Sure. I mean, but like that's not the fight anymore, right? I mean, I think the minute that Microsoft is making something that runs Windows, the fight is like, okay, now this thing runs Steam, right? Now they're making a device that plays all your PC games, and they're, you know, like the comparison to PlayStation 6 is a completely different, like it is not quite apples and oranges because they're still boxes that hook up to a television and play games, right? But like when we talk about the console wars are over and who cares and all this other stuff, like this is part of that, right? You're continuing to go down this road of like, what even are these devices anymore? And you know, and what audiences are they trying to please with this, right? So I think a console that can play, that is as open as a PC, that I can fucking do shit with, right? That I can run Steam on, that I can run, you know, basically whatever I want on there. That sounds very attractive in terms of like, here's a reason to have another set-top box. Like, if they put out another Xbox and it's another closed system of where it runs its own unique versions of games, and it is still this closed thing, and they're still like, well, we still do Xbox Play Anywhere, and so you can play these games on PC, but you can play them on an Xbox. Like that, they get nowhere with that, right? They're getting nowhere with that right now, right? That's their strategy today, and people don't seem interested in Xbox at the moment in great numbers, shall we say. So I think that, like, if they were to do that, if they were to make a really good, and again, friendly, if they were continue to work on Windows and make it friendlier to use with a controller while still maintaining a level of openness, I think that's cool. I think it fundamentally changes their business, but I think that like their business is about to go away anyway. When we think about like some of the services business around like, you know, what used to be Xbox Live Gold and how that was such a huge money driver for them, but they converted it to Game Pass, and now Game Pass is going up in price, and now they're trying to find ways to, you know, maybe get you to, hey, what if you signed up for a lower tier of Game Pass, but still bought games when we put them out, or, you know, like whatever the.
Tough jobs demand even tougher power tools. The Hercules 20-volt brushless platform from Harbor Freight is rigorously tested by professionals to make sure your tools work as hard as you do. Hercules combines power, durability, versatility, and value with the universal 20-volt battery system that powers every tool. Discover why so many Milwaukee and DeWalt users are making the switch to Hercules. Hercules, as good as the best for a whole lot less. Only at Harbor Freight.
Whatever the calculus is there, that stuff's getting muddy, right? In a way that I don't think that a closed platform is going to do anything. I don't think it moves the needle for them. If they came out with a system and it was more powerful than a PlayStation 6, I think people would still go, well, okay, that's fine. But I think Sony still has the games. Like if people that were interested in console.
You being funny, amigo?
I think it's because I have my clothes on, dude. There's a triathlon. Okay.
Ow!
Dang, dude. In conjunction, get off me, fly. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Nah, told you. Come on. Look at it. Do something with the camera, dude. What the fuck, dude? What are you doing? What are you doing there? Okay, okay. Yep, yep. What are you doing here? I can feel you, bro. I can feel you. You take the camera. Okay. Just do weird shit with it, dude. Next thing you know, I'm drifting into a fucking pole. Come on, dude. Come on. Fucking how fast? God damn. God damn, my hand is blazing. Ow, my hand is fucking blazing, bro. Oh, ouch. No, my finger is fucking blazing, dude. Ouch. What the fuck is happening here? Oh, it's all right. I know. But no, I don't know how I could press it much harder. My fucking finger is hurting, dude. What the fuck? Ouch. Ouch. My hand. Ouch. My fucking hand is hurting. Oh my God. No, it's burning, dude. My hand is fucking on fire. Uh, uh, uh. Oh my, it's my middle finger up and down, up and down, up and down. And then I got to press left and right, left and right. Oh my God. Oh, oh, and then up the hill. Oh my God, this is hard. Oh, oh, my fucking hand hurt. Oh my God, now look at the map and switch keys and don't hit the light pole. Oh God. Oh God. Oh, yeah. Oh, fuck. Come on. Come on. Oh my God, hit a hill. Come on. Oh, see. Oh my God, I can't do it, dude. My hand is blown, bro. My hand is blown, dude. There is no way I can do that. Then you're turning me around just over and over. Okay, I'm done. I'm out, dude. I can't. I'm gonna have to use my other hand, motherfucker. I had to switch to my right hand, bro. Fuck. That's insane, dude. That's fucking insane, bros. Uh-uh. Dude, you guys, fuck, wow. Whew. Long race. Yeah. Whew. Easy. Go. So, oh my God, I knew it, dude. I knew it. I had to switch hand. I was blown out. You fucking every excuse. I am sweating, dude. No, I'm fucking sweating, dude. Holy fuck. It's all right. Woo. What's up, baby girl? Got two hands on the fucking keyboard. What's up? Okay, watch it. Woo. Oh, sorry. This game is hurting me. What the? You're all right. Daddy's all right. Just a little excited. Daddy's just getting excited. That's all.
Daddy need a break from that.
I need a break. I think you're probably right. I'm sweating, baby girl.
Yeah, you need to talk.
Holy moly. No, I'm sweating. My fucking hand is blown.
Yeah, you need to talk.
Come on. Where you going, dude? Hey, watch your arms, baby. Where are you going, dude? Okay.
Dad, that's not
I
the
think
right
it's
way.
rubber band AI, dude. I think I'm hurting myself, actually.
Dad, that's not the right way.
Uh-huh. I think I'm hurting myself. I think the better I do, the more. So
What?
I'm
Why are you on
off me, please,
this?
slides. Yeah, I think I'm hurting myself, dude. This is too much. How fucking far is this race, dude? Oh my God.
I didn't know the right way.
I don't know either, baby. This is intense, dude. What the hell is happening?
I don't know.
What the fuck? Maybe I'm out of energy or something, so I'm having to tap a lot faster to compensate.
I see
Because
too.
my player character stats are low or something, I'm having to compensate with the over. But like, no, dude, I'm having to use two hands here.
I see too, Dad.
This is intense, bro.
Yeah. You need to talk.
Dude, what the fuck? 12-minute race? What is happening? When is this going to end? Oh, I guess like the Tour de France. Oh, that's what they're saying. It's like the Tour de France.
Yeah.
Super long. Dude, come on, come on. Where is the end of this race? I gotta get about, dude. Okay, I can't do it, dude. Now you've blown out my other hand. I can't do it, dude. Maybe it is like the Tour de France. That's what they're trying to simulate.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a super duper long bike race. Whoa. It's got to end, dude. Come on. It's got to end, dude. Come on, dude. Look,
Yeah.
he won't even bicycle anymore. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably being dumb. I'm doing something wrong, obviously. I'm probably pedaling at the wrong time, too.
Yeah.
I see it go right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
See if I can pedal some. Oh, yep. Trying to gain some distance.
Playing super fast.
Super fast.
I thought you can play super fast.
Super duper fast.
That was that.
I'm going, baby. Holy moly, dude. It shows like no signs of giving up. Whew.
Oh. The bike. Daddy after a fat die.
Didn't know it was a triathlon. That's funny. 15-minute race. Wow. Oh, that's true. Well, that's weak sauce. Look at him. He's not stopping, dude. Look at him. Come on. Come on. Come on. Look, he stops for 1 second and then can run again. Yeah, that's not legit. What's that? I'm low energy, low everything. Look, he stops for 1 second and then gets a whole new. Yeah. I'm just glad it's over. Fuck me. Whew. Good job, girl. Calm down.
Okay.
What the fuck, dude?
I need to be hard.
What the fuck, bro? You guys are sorry. I'm pretty sure that's rubber band AI. You guys just made me fucking hurt myself, dude. No, I'm a little upset, dude. That my fucking arms are blazing. It's all right. It's stats. My stats something. I'm sure. Ooh, Jesus Christ. 15 minutes, dude, to fail. Wow. It's all right. And there's something. I had clothes on. There was something. I'm sure. Gotta stay this way. And it's like, how? Okay, so how the fuck? Okay, so I'm supposed to get off the off ramp here, but not there. That's,
I said you were doing a race.
yeah, I'm done with the race finally.
Oh,
I'm just trying to get back to where I started.
oh,
Yeah, it was a really, really long race.
oh.
Hmm. Let's see, it's super fast.
That's like how I got it.
Ooh, that was tough. Okay, careful, girl. That was tough. Almost lost it, dude.
I said you race.
Hmm. No, that was a tough race. Almost lost.
Yeah, yeah, was
Whoa,
lost.
whoa, whoa!
Yes, you got it.
How fast we going there, guys?
I see the race.
That car just came out of nowhere, dude. It literally came out of the ground, bro. No, it's too literally out of the fucking ground, bro.
Look where you going.
That was the car I was in.
Well, that's action.
No, it's okay. Full cheat mode, dude.
Yes.
For what? What are we talking about?
She wants a snack.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Sorry, dude. GTA's in full fucking. It just hurt me, dude.
So,
I started a triathlon accidentally, and I didn't mean to. And no, Joseph, my fucking hands were until I realized I don't think like no matter how well you do, it's gonna keep up with you. And then which equaled I hurt myself, dude. No, I had two hands, one on dub. No, dude. I was like, yeah. And then I was like, oh, okay, so no matter what I do, it's gonna do the oh no, that's sinful, dude.
In the very tutorial mission of GTA 5, you're racing Lamar, your cousin.
And you can't beat him no matter what.
It's rubber bands, so if you get in front of him full rubber band.
They should tell you that so you don't fucking hurt your no, dude. I literally my hands were yeah. Yeah. Ugh. Rock and roll lifestyle. How do you afford your rock and roll lifestyle? Jesus Christ almighty, dude. I gotta get off here, let my fucking hand recover, bro. Fucking arm is sore, my balls are sweaty. Sin theory, though, you know? Simulation theory. They got me sweating in my pod. That's what they would argue, you know? They got you sweating. That's the whole point of art. So, but fuck, man. Ouch. I'm pretty sure I just got conned. Doesn't like the shorts, huh?
way. Your body's disgusting.
Hey, buy me some taters fried. Give me that fucking feet.
Are you doing the research then?
No, no, I'm just playing around right now. I got to get rid of muscle.
Oh. Dad, that's my sock.
I've got one.
Oh.
That's a good goal. Yeah, that hurt my hand, dude. Ouch, like that.
Yeah.
You're doing it with your middle finger, up and down, up and down. Like, fuck, bro.
Yeah.
Not what's up. Okay, let's go chill for a little bit. And good news, I think my cycling skills all the way up. I couldn't tell.
You have 10 muscles.
Big muscles.
Yeah, that made those stuff. How do you see, babe?
I'm just relaxing for a minute.
Oh.
Hand hurts.
Oh.
Is that a good snack? Did you like your lunch?
Dad, they say you take one.
Oh, I took two. I'll get you some more. Want me to replace them for you?
Yeah.
How many did I take?
2.
Two, okay. All right, get 2 out of there. 1, 2. Here, you want a couple more?
I bust his face if he
Okay,
talk
that's
like
it.
that again.
I got
Yeah, I see you.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
9,
9, 10,
10,
11, 12.
12. All right, you got to get out of here so I can smoke. Get. Love you.
Hey,
Get.
what you doing?
Mhm.
Console gaming, I think that that's something that, you know, they would probably still lean PlayStation after the way this generation and the generation before it have gone. Unless Sony fucks up completely, which, you know, they're about due to fuck up real bad, right? I mean, with the way this all works. So I think that, like, as a bullet point, as a selling point, an open machine that could run Steam, that could run whatever fucking weird emulators I want to install on it without having to go and go like,
Hey,
I'm
that
going to enable
wind this morning
dev
brought in a
mode on
warm
my
weather.
Xbox
You
and
notice that?
go find this weird build of this thing and install it and this, you know. If it was just like, yo, man, it's a fucking Windows machine, I don't know. Go download a thing and install it. Be like, yes, awesome. Let's do that.
Later, baby.
And so, you know, I think that that's just a very different offering than the traditional console experience. And then you look at, but again, remember, you know, part of this is what audience are they trying to please? For Microsoft, the audience in Japan it's a lost cause. And maybe they get some interest, you know, as the handheld PC space takes off in different ways. You know, that is the Steam Deck has had, you know, they launched it in Japan. There was some interest around it there, and I don't know how well it's doing numbers wise or whatever, but at least like there was a little bit of there was notable interest in that form factor, in that kind of device in that market, right? So maybe that ends up being the way Microsoft eventually gets people to care about their platform in Japan, is to say like, hey, it's a Windows machine, it's a PC, and it's an Xbox. I don't know. But if we think back to what the leaked Sony strategy is, which you know, if that makes sense, and I think it does make sense for this weird kind of identity crisis, I think a lot of the gaming industry is heading into, if not there already, combined with the identity crisis of like consoles and how much do they cost and who wants them and how many people want them and how much do the games cost to make for those consoles and this and that. Like all of these kind of numbers that are not adding up the same way anymore. even as we talk about the PlayStation 5 as like the most, revenue they've brought in a console generation, there is still this like, you see it, you feel it. The industry is weird. The old video game industry in some ways feels like it's getting replaced by something else. And so if Sony's strategy is, hey, we're going to have a console and it's going to be very powerful and it's going to be a console, like, okay. But then they're also, again, if the leaks are to be believed, if they also produce a handheld and say, hey, this handheld runs the same games as the console does.
Okay, good
It's
girl.
like a Switch, but you have to buy 2 devices because fuck
No,
you.
but you can have Bluey. You can have Juice.
Or because they want to have something out there that's also performant. They don't want to just have the handheld.
Careful. Get it? Good job.
I think that's a fine strategy, actually.
Good job.
That is something that I think the Japanese market could resonate with, in terms of like, oh, a handheld, okay, we can get behind that.
Hey there, little lady.
Will it run Monster Hunter on the train?
You ever try to incest?
Yeah,
It's a very
well,
ancient way to think about it, I suppose.
Take care
But
now, little lady.
again, Sony has interests like that in that part of the world that I think Microsoft is a little free and clear of because they have failed so miserably at attracting the Japanese market up to this point. That I think it's sensible for them to say, oh, dude, what if this thing was a computer? Like, all our games are coming to computer anyway. The only problem you run out on there is, like, this idea of some of that revenue, but they've already converted it, right? It used to be like, oh, they'll never get rid of Xbox Live Gold because it makes so much money for them, so they could never just ditch it all for a PC. Well, now now they've migrated that over to Game Pass. And the final migration of that is, by the way, there's really no more console Game Pass because all these things are PCs anyway. So, there's no separate PC Game Pass anymore. There's just Game Pass because everything that's coming out now runs on all of these machines. And that's how they kind of unify it.
no, that's cute.
And present it as that sort of unified platform. Even if the platform is open, they still theoretically get that Game Pass revenue. Now, of course, they have raised the prices on Game Pass to a point where I'm like, that's crazy. And I don't know that that's worth it anymore and what have you. And like taking... And honestly, like, I think when you end up in this system and even if they were to get to a point where, like, PC Game Pass does exist today, but if we get to a point where they eliminate it because all of it is PC Game Pass because there's no such thing as console Game Pass anymore, you still have to compete against Steam. And they can, make it a little challenging for people to install Steam on such a device if they wanted to, but, like, at the end of the day, they're entering a crazier, more competitive, weirder landscape than the one that they've been in competing with Sony and Nintendo, right? Because now all these storefronts would run on the same device, theoretically. That
What's cooking?
you can boot into the Microsoft Store and you'll have the players who are used to that experience, that consoleized experience. Maybe they'll never explore. Maybe they'll never install Steam. They'll never know anything about it. They'll never care. And so maybe that's the play. It all just seems like a different type of risk. I was going to say it seems risky, but like I think, like staying and doing what they've been doing, I don't think will work for them anymore. So they've got to do something. I think that this makes a lot of sense. And at the end of the day, they will still put their games on every platform. And even if Xbox as a platform doesn't work out, it's not like PC gaming is going to vanish. And it's not like Microsoft will never, ever run a game store ever again, So the stakes for failure are, I guess we just continue to publish multiple massive franchises like Elder Scrolls and Fallout and Call of Duty and Minecraft. And if that ends up being their business because the hardware end of it just didn't work out for them, they will still run Windows, which still runs games, which still run, this makes sense for them as kind of their next shot. in that stuff, and I think
Don't make
Sony,
fun of the
like
half-breeds,
again,
bro.
the supposed leak strategy, which who knows, maybe this is all wrong, right? Maybe we're
Come on, man.
just
That's
stacking up
not
bullshit
cool,
on
bro.
top of bullshit here,
That's not
speculating.
cool,
But
bro. They can't. Come on.
but I do think that the Sony idea of making a console and a handheld makes sense for a company that has done well with this console generation and wants to have devices that, you know, like a multitude of devices that can kind of sell in Japan and edge a little bit closer to what Nintendo has been doing. And then, you know, we'll get a few years down the line and see what Nintendo does next, because I think they have to find something brand new all over again. A lot of this talk has led to release date talk as well, and 2027 is starting to sort of firm up as, you know, the rumored release date for all of these devices.
That's a yes.
So that would
You're
be
not- well, you're
new
gonna be ready in
consoles
1 minute.
in 2 years.
Yeah, y'all.
And that would be new consoles, what is that, 7 years after the release
Want a little
of
bit more
the
minutes?
previous generation, which I think that's
You want
that's a
5?
cycle.
Okay, well, you get 5
7
minutes.
years.
And then you're going outside.
It's not 10,
Get some air.
but 7 plus. They
Get
probably
some
support
sun.
these
Need some
existing
sun.
boxes for some number, or at least
You
Sony
need some
does, for
sun
some
on
number
that
of years.
skin.
Yeah, that's
No,
about
you
the same
got
as
5
it was
minutes.
last
What
time.
you got?
So that would make a
That's
ton of
what you
sense.
got.
They have
1,
to,
2,
you
3,
know, they
4.
had to make a bunch of
5.
decisions about hardware and what is the
One
right
hand.
hardware to
That's
come
one
out,
hand
and
worth of fingers. One
what
hand.
is the right hardware for the right price.
5
And some of
fingers.
these
One hand.
decisions they made probably a while ago now, and now they're finding themselves into this new era of bullshit tariffs and all this other horse shit that is going to impact their pricing and availability and AI and you know, all this other garbage that has kind of been thrown in their way. I think will, you know, it will impact us for years to come.
Chain, bro.
I think even if you dropped, if every tariff went away tomorrow,
Trump would have to be a
I think
lot
it would
more
still, there's
articulate
been
than
enough of a
explaining why
drag
he's
on
seizing
things
power.
now
What?
that I
And
think
maybe
even by
I'm
2027 we would still see some shit.
Like, come the fuck on, dude.
Been out of that still for a week now.
Your
So
culture and civilization
I
has
think
been in
2027
decline
makes
for
a
at
lot of
least
sense.
50
That has been
fucking
what
years,
some of the
dude.
speculation
You've
has
been
been for
bottoming
sure.
Been in a civil war. How long have we been in a
I think
cold
that
civil war, bro?
again, just from
How fucking
it maybe not
long,
make
man?
sense for you, might not feel
Or
like you're done
forever?
with your
I don't.
PlayStation
I don't.
5.
Come on.
Some of you might not feel like you've even gotten off the ground with your PlayStation 5. But I think that, you know, in terms of when decisions have to be made and when, you know, like how a lot of that stuff just kind of has to go, I think that probably makes a lot of sense for targeted release dates. If you go too much further past that, then your technology just gets older and older and older, because you had these decisions that you had to make 3 years ago about architectures and everything else. Everyone's working with AMD again. They've announced all that publicly. So we'll have a bunch of AMD machines all over again. And we'll see. Meanwhile, more in the here and now as opposed to a couple of years down the line. Man. I think, you know, a lot of what happened, man, it's a couple of things, right? Time got weird. This generation, this last 5 years, you know, so basically since 2020, it's why there's a whole category of TikTok video where people are making like their shitty, like bad analog horror videos. And they're like, 2019 was the last year. You've been shuttled off into another timeline. That's why everything feels so weird and bad. It's like, no, there was a pandemic and it fucked a lot of things up. And now time is fucking, like the passage of time got weird because now everything is so fucking strange lately. And that's not, I didn't fall out of the timeline.
Calendar.
Like, no, like all this other shit
You're
fucking
off
happened
the calendar,
like, in
bro.
the world. And it's still happening.
The Mayan
in a lot of
prediction, the
different
calendar's
ways and different
broken.
reasons,
You need to
right?
get on a new
So,
calendar. You need to make
it's
a
funny,
new
'cause I
calendar,
think about
bro.
it, like, man, I remember when Sony sent the PlayStation 5 out
You need a new
pre-release.
calendar.
I had already had an Xbox Series X in
Mark
the
the
house for a
time.
few days. When the PS5
Need a
showed
new
up,
calendar to give us reason and right.
and
Wow.
God, dude, my daughter had been born in mid 2019, and then she was like a year and a half old or whatever it was by then, and we were starting to work on having a second one, and then
Slap.
yeah, that
She needs to
was
get
a
some
bumpy
shorts
ride.
on, some pants on.
But like, yeah, that was 2020.
You got your 5
It
minutes.
does not
Let's
feel
go.
like that was 5 years ago.
You got your 5 minutes.
It feels like that was maybe 2 years ago
Come on,
in
babe.
some
Go
weird
outside.
way. But here we are. And yeah, anyway, I think that there's a lot of reasons why time feels weird, and you know, because of everything that has happened outside of the world of gaming for the past 5-6 years.
No golems allowed, bro.
But in real time, by the numbers,
Get
2027
out.
will in fact be long enough for them to make another console, even if it doesn't feel right. And I'm with you. Like none of this feels right. 2 years. It's 2 years from now somehow feels like it will be forever. And 5 years ago feels like it just happened. It's trying to tell them is go out the fucking side. And maybe you feel differently about that, but that's kind of where I'm at right now. The idea that the idea that it is currently mid-October.
Go outside.
Here, it's Q4. Black Friday is mere weeks away, and whatever's left of video games this year, all the big ones still have to ship here pretty soon. You know, like it's weird. It's weird.
So the haunted house is an entity in and of itself, huh?
To return to the present here,
Stephen King. That's what you're trying to say. What? The Overlook?
Around.
The Overlook Hotel.
The Overlook. And that comes from, it was an Indian burial ground or something too. Before that, it was
pulling Xbox,
and then before that, it was a serpent mound, is what they would say. And then yeah, before that, there's rock, you know.
Empty Xbox software, you know, the weird plastic holders they put things in at the store, like that those things were being packed up and rolled out. And people saying like, oh, this stuff's done. Like this was on the heels of the Costco and I guess Sam's Club. I think that those warehouse stores did actually pull Xbox out of the stores. Or at least I know Costco did. Sam's Club, I heard it also happened. But I did not look into that.
Also,
one.
It's true.
Target
they really did
Walmart
pull the Xboxes down.
Would be a crazy. That would be a very serious blow in terms of like remaining retail shelf space for a device and all this other stuff. And it's another situation where Microsoft had to like actually come out and comment on a rumor. Windows Central got this quote out of them. And some of the quotes going around, this is all stuff that got like posted on Reddit, right? It's like people saying, I work for Target and this is happening and posting pictures.
What are you up to tonight?
But there's been a lot of stuff here like I just called my local Walmart to ask if they were discontinuing and I haven't heard anything. They also have them in stock. Like this stuff kind of started getting refuted. And Microsoft eventually had to give a quote here. They just said, Target and Walmart, among other retailers, remain committed partners for Xbox consoles, accessories, and games. So, you know, again, like, it's not good news for Xbox that, like, it seems like every week now they have to make some kind of uncharacteristic comment to say, like, nope, we're still here. Yes, we are still working on new hardware. Yes, Xbox is still available in Target and Walmart. For what it's worth, I found myself in a Target over the weekend, and they did not have any Series X hardware. They had 2 Series S's. They had quite a bit of Switch 2 and PlayStation 5 stock. But also, like, the shelf space for physical games is something that is going down to where I'm not sure that Target had any physical Xbox games in stock. They had about 16, you know, like what, 4 rows of 4. Like it was 16 or 20 different PlayStation 5 games. But they had, like, for software on the Xbox section, they had a bunch of gift cards, including one for Redfall that was like still said $69.99 on it. And I was looking at it and going like, Jesus Christ, what the what is happening here? I bet if you went to the Xbox storefront that you would not, there's no way Redfall is currently $70 in that storefront. But you know, like I do, you know, like I don't think it's out of character. I think for some of these stores, especially for Xbox stuff, because of the way that Game Pass has impacted game sales and whatever else. So I got home and once I just noticed that, like, oh man, they don't have any Xbox hardware or any Series S hardware here at all. That's kind of crazy. A lot of controllers for both systems, but that was it. And so I came home and and then I discovered that there was this rumor going around that Target was getting out. And I was like, oh my God, did I just like managed to stumble into a Target on the day that this was all supposedly going down? And I started looking around and I started trying to figure out, like, okay, what is the most recent Xbox physical game that would be mainstream enough for these stores to carry? And I started looking at all the stores kind of in my area, like, you know, like I'm in Southern California. And I started looking at, you know, like 50 miles around me, like 100 miles around me or whatever. And for games that it seems like they should have, but maybe like is borderline. Like I looked up Call of Duty Black Ops 6 because I figured like that seems like a game that they would have. It's a year old, but you know, it's the current Call of Duty. It seems like something that they would have in stock. And I found that like none of the stores, like there was like one store in like a 50-mile radius that had it in stock. Starfield, like similar deal. Indiana Jones, basically nowhere. And then I looked at Madden, and Madden, the Xbox version of this year's John Madden football was in a lot of locations. It took me a long time to think, like, what's a mainstream game that would be physical on Xbox? I'm like, And I could only think of first-party stuff for a while. But, like, Madden was in stock in a lot of places. But Starfield and Indy were not at most locations. And so, you know, you could chalk this up. I don't know what you chalk this up to.
That's right.
Reduced shelf space for physical games, I think, is something that we're all heading towards, whether you like it or not. I do think that if you stretch this timeline out another 5-10 years, 10 years, maybe closer to 10 than 5, that I would start to assume that physical games are going to become a little bit more bespoke, boutique in nature. The limited run games of the world will become more the norm for anything that isn't the biggest of the biggest of the biggest.
Yeah.
But Madden is the biggest of the biggest of the biggest in a lot of ways, right? So you would think that that would continue to have continue to earn its shelf space. But would it earn it for Xbox if people aren't buying games on Xbox because they're signing up for Game Pass and people aren't buying Xboxes and they're, you know, if that ecosystem is like fractured, which it seems to be these days in some ways, then you do start to wonder where that eventually leads. And yeah, I don't know. I don't have any I don't have anything definitive to say at the end of this, other than I started poking around specifically for software. And though I could find some hardware and things of that nature and accessories, again, controllers all over the place. But when I started looking at targets in my area, and again, Southern California, I started looking in Los Angeles, which, like it or not, Los Angeles is a major metropolitan, whatever. And in the surrounding areas, it was spotty, I would say. Spottier than PlayStation stuff when I started to look in comparison. Like the Xbox stuff seemed...
I'm looking, bro. Hold on, I'm looking.
...prevalent as PlayStation 5 stuff, which I think ties into everything we've been talking about with Xbox for a long time. So I don't think Microsoft is lying here. I don't think they're saying, oh, Target is a trusted partner, when Target is definitely on their way out. I don't think Target is on their way out, but I do think that Target Shelf space in a Target is very hard to come by, and if things are not moving, then you've got to reduce that shelf space. And so I don't think it's a world where they're going to completely punch out and not have Xbox hardware, but you know, it doesn't seem like it's trending in a great direction either. I don't know that I would say that PlayStation 5, like that like those sections look bad anyway, right? Compared to what they even looked like a few years ago. And some of that is the market and the shift towards digital sales. Like why devote a bunch of shelf space to a bunch of games that, you know, people are just going to go download, you know, like it makes sense on some level to just like not stock as much of that stuff. And sure enough, when you go look at the shelf full of Switch 1 games that are just laying out, not even in security, it's just like, here, just grab them and buy them. And the PS5 games are still kind of behind glass. Yeah, I don't know, man. Like retail doesn't feel good, but I don't think retail's like super healthy anyway. So it's kind of hard to. It's hard to glean much about the future of Xbox based on this, because you could just as easily look at it as like, well, you know, we know that Xbox is not selling the way PlayStation is. That's pretty much a given at this stage. And we know that retail is kind of a weird thing anyway. And so, you know, naturally there's going to be some shifts there. So I think it's probably more just that kind of happening, as opposed to any sort of coordinated or deliberate, hey, we're getting out of the Xbox business. The Costco thing, I still haven't seen anyone try to, like, I can't put I don't know how to describe that. I don't know what reasoning you would have for Costco saying, hey, we're not going to carry Xbox anymore. I think that's kind of wild. But you look at it as like, well, it's just not selling. Or you look at it as Microsoft is you know, not manufacturing as many because they know they don't sell as much, and so they can't satisfy whatever Costco's needs are, or the price has been raised past a point where Costco doesn't feel comfortable stocking them at that price, considering they know what they were not selling for at the old price. Like, you know, something of that nature, that it all just kind of comes to a head and they just go like, oh, dude, we're done. So yeah, I don't know. Like I don't think there's no like hard fast conclusion to any of this right now. But I think these are all just signs of an industry in flux, right? Both the way games are made and the way consoles are sold and the way all of this stuff is currently happening, right? It's there's just this larger shift going on, and I don't know what this looks like on the other end of all this, you know? I don't know like where this ends up, where this all leads, and what does the game industry look like in 3 years? You know, when new consoles are coming out and all this other stuff, like what does it all look like? Yeah, they need more room for chicken bakes. I can't blame them. I need more room for chicken bakes, man. Speaking of the game industry, Remedy has issued a profit warning over sales of FBC Firebreak, according to videogameschronicle.com, your home for the news. This is a note that they put out to investors, reporting that sales of FBC Firebreak have not reached their internal targets, and they've lowered their outlook for their current business year, which will basically result in a hit of 14.9 million euros, which, according to this, represents the majority of the game's development and publishing costs. That's interesting. I don't know what their targets were for FBC Firebreak in terms of, you know, I know that the targets were higher than they reached. That's obvious. But the story, you know, everything I heard in the run-up to this game's release was that, you know, this game launched on both Xbox Game Pass and on PlayStation Plus. So when they put it out, it was free for console players that were subscribers to those services. And if you're not familiar, FBC Firebreak is a co-op first-person shooter set in the Control universe. It's kind of run based. You're kind of meant to do these missions again and again and again in a a Left 4 Dead-esque manner. And it has some okay ideas. It launched without some of those ideas, and they have tried to change up the progression and things that to make it more palatable since its release. And it is a game that is okay and has some cool ideas that I don't think is especially like fantastic, but it's neat. But I don't know. My understanding was that because the games were on Game Pass and PlayStation Plus or whatever tier of PlayStation Plus it ended up on, this was not a main project for Remedy. This was something they were doing while other games were ramping up, and they had people that could work on this, and they wanted to do a multiplayer thing anyway, and then that it kind of just things aligned for them to make this game. And also, a lot of the costs were going to, not all of them, but like a significant chunk of the cost of making FBC Firebreak was going to be handled by the money that would come in from Game Pass and from PlayStation Plus. And so, hearing that this is, that they have to issue a profit warning over this, as I would say, slightly surprising to me, because I figured that kind of no matter what, even if there was a revenue shortfall, it would not be a massive one, because this always just kind of seemed like a relatively smallish project. There's a quote here from the CEO, Tero Vertala, says Remedy is recognizing a non-cash impairment of capitalized development costs and allocated purchased publishing and distribution rights related to FBC Firebreak. While we balance future investments to the title, we continue developing and improving the game in line with our updated long-term sales forecast. That's a lot of words. The game did have over 1 million players in its first 10 days, according to earlier financial reports from the company. But yeah, obviously did not break through. They were put on their back feet initially, like right after launch. They were kind of in a position where they were putting out statements saying like, hey, yeah, so there's some stuff we can fix immediately, and then there's some stuff that's going to take a little bit longer time. Here's the stuff we're doing today. And they kind of rushed out some patches to change the rate at which you unlocked new gear. I think that game is more fun when you have all of the stuff unlocked than it is when you have low-level bad versions of the guns. And so they have changed up the way the progression works and the way the unlocks work to where you are not unlocking bad versions of guns, you're just unlocking the fully charged versions of guns. And among other things, right? But the game was bad at illustrating what made it cool. I think that there's a lot of nuance to some of the interactions in that game, where like if you're on fire, you can shoot a sprinkler on the ceiling and it will rain down on you, put out the fire. There's which is something they don't ever tell you can do. And so there was a lot of just like learning about what you could do in that game that they didn't do a good job with in terms of just like tutorializing and exposing that to you. And that I think didn't help either. It's like they tried to make it mysterious, or like, hey, you're going to uncover some neat tricks, but like the game was just not good enough, engaging
Okay, be
enough for
careful.
people
Yeah,
to
watch
want
that
to
dog.
learn those tricks, right?
Good job, Joseph.
Hey,
will you pick up the
it happens,
things?
man. I don't know. But that's, they're issuing a profit warning over that. Union members are suing Build a Rocket Boy, the studio behind Mind's Eye. Independent Workers of Great Britain, the game workers arm of that, is suing. Build a Rocket Boy has been working through the process of laying people off post the release of Mind's Eye, which was a video game, I guess, in theory. But they have written an open letter to the executive leadership at Build a Rocket Boy. Basically, the bullet points of this letter are that, you know, like, okay, they say, we estimate a UK majority of 250 to 300 workers across the company have now lost their livelihoods. These layoffs happened because you repeatedly refused to listen to your workforce's years of experience, resulting in one of the worst video game launches this decade. I'll co-sign that. That's yes. This is yes. Mind's Eye is probably one of the worst video game launches this decade. Here are a few of the issues: lack of transparency and communication, unbearable levels of overtime, which says here in the 4 months leading up to the launch of Mind's Eye, you implemented a mandatory 8 hours of overtime per week for every single employee. Time off in lieu was given at a rate of 7 hours back for every 8 hours worked, and many have still not been able to take this time off due to your continued requests for extra high-priority work even after launch. Disastrous handling of redundancies. As well as many other issues. I was looking for a specific phrase here that I guess is not technically in the open letter.
What am I doing?
But remember, you know, this is the studio where the leadership at the studio, Leslie Benzies, the Benz, if you will, known for his work on the Grand Theft Auto franchise, was out there talking to the company and claiming that there were saboteurs working to undermine the game before its release, and like blaming, and that there were people inside the studio working to take the studio down, and you know, and not recognizing that, like, hey, you've got a bad idea, you've pivoted into this kind of bad mission-based game out of your weird sandbox NFT nightmare that you were building previous to this, and that there are other people inside and outside of the companies working to take it down, which is fucking insane. The IO Interactive signed on to publish Mind's Eye, and there were quotes from them recently where, you know, someone finally asked, like, hey, do you think that there were saboteurs? And like, they were like, no. And also we might not continue our publishing arm ever again because of how shitty this experience was. This was not, I don't know. Like, I don't know who you think, like, do they think that Sam Hauser was out there paying people to make Mind's Eye bad because of whatever love was lost between them on their, you know, when that whole thing broke up? Or that's stupid. So the demands of the union are, they want a public apology for the mistreatment of employees, the option for remaining employees on redundancy notice to either work their notice period or take payment in lieu of notice, a concerted, meaningful, and documented effort to improve conditions and processes within the company, including the acknowledgement of the union, and a commitment to use official external partners to action any future redundancies and prevent unfair treatment. Mark Gerhardt and Leslie Benzies, you often refer to your employees as family, but we ask you to consider, is this really how you treat your own? I would believe 100% that someone responsible for that particular era of Grand Theft Auto would treat his own family exactly that way. To be honest, I would say, yeah, probably. I don't know. Mind's Eye, there was another patch for Mind's Eye, like, relatively recently. Not that anyone noticed or cared.
What do you fancy?
If you did not play Mind's Eye, you're not alone. It is a mission-based game where you are a dude with weird old military hardware in your head, and you're trying to find out why, or you're trying to find out something about it and why it is there. And so you go and decide to go work for the company that made it, and you quickly get wrapped up into intrigue. it launched with a lot of technical issues and things that were just, you know, performance-wise that were just shitty. Just poor performance, memory leaks, crashes, you know, just like stuff like that. But ultimately, they could polish that game up for years and it would still be that game. That game sucks. The mission design, the storyline, the dialogue, the things you are doing inside of those missions as like a, you know, kind of, it's like they made a kind of a Grand Theft Auto-ish sort of mission-based game with a lot of driving, but there's no real open world. So there's no side stuff. There's like nothing to do. It's, you just do missions and there happens to be a world there. This all came out of another large, they had the initial thing that this studio was doing was supposed to be this kind of sandbox where you are making your own games inside of it and all of this stuff and you know, that thing never really came to pass. And instead, you know, at some point they pivoted into, okay, we've got to release a game. So they used that technology to make this game, and it's not good. I don't know. It's not surprising that it, you know, that all of this went down poorly. You know, when you think about some of the things that were being said around the game's release about sabotage and all the other insane stuff that, like, yeah, I guess it's unsurprising that like they didn't handle layoffs well and redundancies and the proper procedures that you have to go through in the UK. Like, it's not surprising that this union has its complaints about how all of that went. It's a poor product at the end of the day. It's a shame because I'm sure a lot of people worked very hard on a lot of the technology that powered it, and you know, and then, you know, a lot of people probably worked on whatever this game ended up being. On top of that, sounds like they crunched pretty hard on it for a good long time, and for what, man? That game sucks. That game just straight up sucks. One of the worst games I played this year. You know, it's always a crazy situation, right? Where it's like no one played the actual worst game that came out this year because it's. But in terms of like games that they were trying to charge very real money for, boy oh boy, did that thing fucking stink. I think my favorite thing about the Mind's Eye, everything. Well, no, my favorite thing is that, you know, that you had people inside the studio, like the studio heads, blaming sabotage. That is my actual favorite thing because what the fuck. That is.
You're gonna have to go do something else, dude.
Favorite thing about that. But my second favorite thing is that they had contacted streamers to try to do
level up your Desert Eagle,
sponsored streams on release day or release week or whatever, like right around the time of launch. And that there's footage of people who were streaming. They were minutes away from going into their sponsored block of, okay, it's time for me to play Mind's Eye, a game which I love. Sponsored stream. And that like minutes before it was supposed to start, they canceled it. In some cases, when like, oh no, we're not doing this, or like people laughing their way through the game, like, yeah, you could buy this, and so like a lot of like just ridiculous, a ridiculous rollout. I had already suspected this was how it's like some parts of it were going to go sideways. When I knew that Mind's Eye had a release date, I knew that they're probably going to send out review copies relatively soon. And when I inquired about it, I got back a form, and one of the spots on the form was, please link to any previous coverage of Mind's Eye you have produced, which is, I'm going to say, a relatively clear sign that they were trying to filter out. Like, oh, we're not going to send, like, it was a clear sign of just like, oh, they're not going to send this to most people. Like, no one's getting this. No one's getting a review copy of Mind's Eye because, like, all the stories about it for the past 2 weeks have been super negative and about the crazy sabotage story and how insane they are. And so once it was like, oh, we're going to try to check and see what they said about our game before we send it to them, I was like, okay, yeah, no one's getting this. Super gross, dude. Netflix. It turns out the Netflix of video games is Netflix. No? Okay. Netflix has announced that they are going to be putting out some streamable video games. You're going to be able to stream video games on Netflix, which is interesting. They've done some interactive video and some other cool stuff before that was interesting. They've also, like, had mobile games that you could only play if you were a Netflix subscriber, which I think is really dumb and not a good fit. Instead, what they're going to be doing is releasing a couple of games that you will be able to play on TVs, streaming via streams. You know, it's some of this stuff looks pretty lightweight. It's like Boggle Party, you know, Pictionary, you know, like it's 5 games that are part of the rollout. But of those 5 games, one of them is Tetris. Specifically, it is Tetris Time Warp, which is the new version of Tetris that they made for the Digital Eclipse made for Tetris Forever. So that is going to be getting a weird standalone release as a streaming game on Netflix, which is, I don't know, it's interesting. Lego Party is also part of this, which I guess Lego Party came out? Wait, did Lego Party come out? Did they release a Lego Party? Yeah, okay, September 30th. Okay, so I guess Lego Party's been out for a couple of weeks. That is also going to be released on Netflix, which is interesting. I don't know. I don't want to see that. But okay. But I don't know, like the idea of playing Tetris on a video, you know, on a with like streaming latency is interesting. I wonder if they made any changes to it to kind of better facilitate that, or if it's just the game kind of raw. It's an interesting. Yeah, I don't know. You know, Netflix. I feel like Netflix has been wanting to do something with games for a while, and obviously they were doing the mobile stuff, and they've done some of the interactive TV things, and so it's like they've tried a few different things. This feels most, I don't know, playing to the strengths of what Netflix does, right? Streaming video to people. I wonder if this is something that they try to get into in a real way. You know, presumably they would stick to the games that they could offer to Netflix subscribers for no additional money instead of just like selling full-priced games on a streaming service. I don't think that's a sensible future for Netflix, but I do wonder if they see success with these 5 games, if it's something where they would eventually try to expand this. You know, in a world where Jackbox would be a great fit for this, but the thing I was going to say is in a world where the Amico games were actually worth playing or good in any way, which now that more and more of those games have been showing up on Steam and showing up on phones and stuff, like it's they have a pretty good idea, like, oh, all these games are awful, or most of these games are terrible. Like, you want to play a bad new version of Vaster? No, I do not. No, I actually don't. Like the Amico family gaming concept, you know, would actually make sense as an arm of Netflix. But, you know, whatever. At the end of the day, they're going to have Boggle and some of these word games, puzzle games, like, you know, kind of the simple, relatively simple stuff that I think makes a lot of sense for Netflix to be getting into. And the games that they're choosing to release are probably much smarter choices than anything that was announced for the Amico, I suppose. There's still people out there that are like say that the Amico is going to come out. Like they're still like, well, we're selling these games. You know, like they've started. What they've done is some of the games that were developed for the Amico, some of those got sold off to other companies that are publishing them on like Steam and Switch.
Can I have this?
And then there's an Amico app for phones, and there's some games you can buy inside of that for way too, it's like 15, it's way too much money. These games are way too much money. But all of that still filters back to like a guy on a Discord somewhere who says, yeah, we're doing this to make sure that we get enough money to make the Amico. And you're like, I guess the minute that guy says, no, the dream is dead, then everyone wants a refund, right? Like right now, someone wrote in a few weeks ago and said that they were looking for a refund, and there's like a set number of dollars set aside every month for refunds, and they're being processed in order. So like that guy had filed for his refund and was told like, oh yeah, in some number of years you'll be able to get your refund. It's like,
That's very kind, man.
what? Bizarre. Bizarre that that's still a thing.
Ain't that a surprise?
And that there are still like some lunatics out there that are like true believers that are like, no, you just don't understand. When the Amico comes out, you'll all see. Like it's really. Well, whatever. Is that hard to believe when we look at you know what Facebook and social media has done to people's brains, and we look at the political climate and the insane shit that people are willing to believe, despite the the facts staring them in the face a lot of the time. Like, is it that hard to believe that like there's a couple of just like people that are just all the way gone, that are just like the Amico, or like, yeah, okay, I don't know, like people are fucking ride or die for the dumbest shit imaginable. I guess it makes sense that there would still be someone that would be psyched about the Amico. That's going to do it for the news. Why don't we take a couple of emails here? Podcast@guard.bike is the email address for you to send your emails to. If you send them anywhere else, I won't see it. Let's see. What do we have here? Phil from Detroit writes in and says, physical media is back? Are you fascinated by this revitalization of CDs and DVDs? I get a kick out of seeing newer generations fascinated by them, the way that millennials got into records and tapes. Also, what is your experience with disc rot? The revitalization of CDs and DVDs, I don't know, man. For me, it's like the people that are making cassette tapes and selling tapes on Bandcamp. I think that's the fucking true psychotic shit. But tapes are also kind of cool. I keep thinking about buying a new tape player because I've gotten some tapes off Bandcamp. It was just like, well, I'm gonna buy this album, and I guess I get a cassette tape with it? What? Sure, why not? I'm trying to think back the last time I had a car that had a tape deck in it. I bought a Mustang GT in 1997, and it came with a tape deck, and then I immediately ripped that tape deck out. It was a tape deck and a separate CD player. It was like 2 units. I ripped all that shit out and put in an MP3. This was like one of the first MP3 playing head units that they sold in the States. It was a Kenwood. Had a sick dolphin on it. It was fucking awesome.
Have fun.
And I don't think I've had a tape deck in a car since. I don't think I've had a working tape deck or like hooked up to anything since. I don't know.
Take it, hold it, love it.
So I bought
Perfect
the fucking.
killing, pure and simple.
I don't know why.
Best not to mention where you got that. Okay?
I bought the Tron and Tron Legacy 4K Blu-rays that came out because I knew if I didn't order them immediately, they would be sold out and impossible to get. And so when I saw that they were in stock somewhere, I went, oh shit. And then they took forever. They finally showed up last week. And it's those movies in 4K, which there are other ways to watch those movies in 4K that were not delayed by weeks and weeks. So even though I had ordered them, I somehow managed to watch both those movies in 4K in the time of waiting for those discs to show up. I don't know, man. Physical media is a great way to like have backups of things that you ripped and threw on a shelf, I guess. I don't know. Like I have no desire to interact with discs. I have no desire to like have a shelf of discs and take one out and put it in the player and watch a thing and do this, and when I can just do that once and through the magic of this awesome fucking external Blu-ray player I bought for like no dollar, for like 40, 30, I don't know, some stupid low amount of money. That problem is now solved, and I don't need to keep getting back to the shelf to put a thing, you know, like rip the CDs. I have a zillion CDs in the garage that I re-ripped as flax because, you know, I ripped a lot of them decades ago into like MP3s that were like 112 kilohertz, and it was like garbage quality MP3s. Had to be re-ripped them all as flax. And I don't know, like that's the value of physical media to me is like, okay, here's a backup that is a little more static. Like if a hard drive crashes, then I'm well, fuck. I guess I got to rip this stuff again, you know, and that's why it's there. I don't know, but I don't.
Nah, you guys are.
Of physical media. I don't think that's.
Sure, Denise, we can hear shit up.
I don't know. It's all that stuff is kind of pointless. Fred Chuck Dave says hates physical media, owns 50,000 games. You'll notice that most of those games are from an older era, and up to a certain point, it stops. I think I have one PlayStation 5 game. It's Hades. They sent me a copy of Hades. Also, that's the other thing, is that I've been working in this industry for a long time and have a lot of discs that were sent to me for review purposes that I would probably not own otherwise. But yeah, man, I don't know. It's physical media is neat and pointless, especially for games of a certain vintage. I've got here this is a SD card here, micro SD card inside of an SD card adapter. This is 1.5 terabytes, which is bigger than it needs to be. But this has every Sega Saturn game ever released on it.
Oh, CJ.
This was in my satiator. And Sega Saturn games take up a lot of room on a shelf. They're big boxes. I'm going to keep them all because I have them. And, you know, there's probably some Saturn games that I would consider getting rid of, but like I feel like I'm interested in ditching mostly newer stuff and then a lot of cartridge-based stuff that I don't have any nostalgic attachment to. You know, as I've said multiple times, I think the first category of game I would go through and get rid of are Super Nintendo games because I have a lot of them. I don't need them. I would keep like 5 of them. I'd be like, here's my Super Mario World. Here's my copy of Super Mario World that I got when I bought my SNES. And like a handful of other games.
How about a little coffee?
You don't need them.
Cool.
It's you don't need, like, there's no the reasons to have these like physical artifacts. You just don't need them. So physical media, I think, is a pain in the ass. I'm glad that it exists as a convenience, as a true, like, let me get a thing that I'm going to be able to manipulate in the way that I want to, which increasingly for modern games is not the case, right? Like Battlefield 6 was an interesting one because you had people that were getting a hold of disc-based copies of Battlefield 6 for the PlayStation, like before it was released. And so the word went around, hey, the whole game's on the disc. And people were like, yeah, cool. When you put that disc in, the first thing it does, when you launch Battlefield 6, the very first thing it does is connect it to a server. And if it cannot connect to the server, you cannot play it. That includes the campaign. There's nothing you can do. Like, that disc is useless as anything other than an install medium. You're not getting anything on that disc. And I wonder, the other thing I wonder is when I installed Battlefield, when they sent Battlefield 6, I got it for PlayStation 5. I installed it and I launched it and went like, okay, let's play the campaign. And the first thing it did was, you don't have the campaign installed. I'm like, what? And then I had to go and individually install, and I had to do it one at a time. There were 4 different packages to install. There was single player, there was multiplayer, there was HD textures for the single player, and HD textures for the multiplayer. And so I had to go through and manually hit install on all of those. I assumed that, I assumed that maybe the disc had all that stuff on it already and wasn't just the shell, and you didn't have to go download all that stuff. Maybe, I don't know. I don't think people knew then, but maybe they did. Either way, modern games are online. Modern games require servers and all of that stuff. And so the idea of like, I've got to collect physical discs for these games, like, who gives a shit? No, you don't. Because it still has to connect to a server. Like, maybe someday, when I say maybe someday, I think the other part of the problem gets solved too. Where like, oh, you know, someone's going to come up with a private server for this and make it launch, and it'll continue to do this and whatever else. Like, okay, yeah, maybe they will. At that point, there will also be ways to get your hands on the game to where I don't need the fucking PlayStation 5 disc to do it, right? It's just sort of, you know, I don't know. Like, that's, again, like, modern games have server connections, and sometimes those servers are unavailable, and when the games run their course, sometimes the servers go away. So the idea of collecting a physical copy of Battlefield 6 for a console seems like fucking stupid to me. Dude, like, why are you wasting your time with this? Like, what do you hope to gain with this thing? I don't know, man. Like, it's on a shelf. Great. I don't know. Get it on Steam. Nathan from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. Right, Sam. It says, do you have any sense of how far along This Is Vegas was before it got canceled? Could a build ever leak? I was at PAX 2008, and they had a panel on the schedule, which was, of course, canceled. I just love atypical open-world games and would love to play it. In the meantime, finishing The Wheelman will have to suffice. Nathan, about 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, maybe. It's Tuesday now, so a little over 2 weeks ago, I was on a call with multiple ex-Midway employees. And I asked the very question that you asked me. I said, who the fuck has This Is Vegas? Why isn't that leaked? What the fuck's going on? And This Is Vegas is like legendary as a stupid fucking joke. So my understanding from talking to ex-Midway employees is that This Is Vegas was available in chunks. Like, when they went to demo it for the company, they had different parts of the game on different, like, the build was not one unified game at that point. It was like, okay, we've got this Xbox here, and this one runs the gambling one. We've got this Xbox here, and this is, you're driving around on this one. And then this box over here has the strip club on it with the combat sequence. And so I saw that game at an event, and it was, the builds were the same way there too. But I don't think they ever got that game to a point where all of it was in one thing. And so I asked the question, I said, who the fuck has builds of that game? Like, someone does, right? And they racked their brains. They started kicking around names of people that I don't know who they were. But it was just like, I bet this guy would have this guy. So I don't know. I would love to see This Is Vegas in some form because of the legendary mess that it has become amongst my group of friends who used to work at Midway. But yeah, I don't know. This Is Vegas was always, it never seemed like it had fully coalesced into a full video game. It was just like a bunch of demos and concepts that were not necessarily joined together. And so that said, yes, there are builds of it, but if you're expecting something that is a big, fully fledged open world game and like a fully fledged preview build that's completable or anything, like I don't think This Is Vegas ever got that far along. I could be wrong about that, but my understanding is that it's not a thing that reached a far enough along sort of thing. Jehoshaphat says, "Who greenlit that?" I mean, I guess it'd be Neil Nicastro, right? I mean, he was the guy that was probably like Matt Booty didn't take over Midway until it was like done. Like Neil Nicastro was there, I think, until very close to the actual end, and then Matt Booty was the CEO there for the final days of Midway and the sale to Warner and all that stuff. And now he runs studios at Xbox. But Neil Nicastro was the guy running Midway, I think, at the time. So he would have been probably the guy to green light a. And I'm sure the pitch is just like, we're gonna make a Grand Theft Auto. Like, yeah, we are. Hell yeah. That'll save the company. No.
Oh, you're too kind.
Michael in Brisbane writes in and says, with everything becoming a subscription nowadays, do you ever see Steam eventually charging for cloud saves? In 2025, it's realistically amazing. I can jump from my deck back to my PC and pick up where I left off without owing someone some money. What are your thoughts on cloud saves eventually being a paid-for service? So, specifically with regards to Steam, remember, Steam takes, 30%, right? They did not change the cut that they take just because Tim Sweeney was mad about it, right? Like, they still take their cut. The thing that you're paying for when you pay Valve 30% of your game sale, or whatever percentage it is, forget the 30%, but like when you pay Valve a percentage of money for the sale of your game, like that is stuff that is then, in theory, funding development of the Steam platform and keeping it running and all of this other stuff. And so part of what Steam offers to developers, similarly what Xbox offers to developers and what PlayStation offers to developers as well, Nintendo, I suppose, on their paid service, but they are technical. And Nintendo is technically charging for cloud saves. Is that per title storage? Like, okay, you can store this much data per user on our back end. They're also, hey, you're also paying for like, hey, here's a service that will let it, like if I wanted to go delete and re-download a game 100 times, I don't think Valve would stop me. Maybe they should. But you can download that game again. Part of that money goes to funding Steam, the platform, the bandwidth, all of that stuff, keeping that company up and running. And so I look at it as someone is already paying for cloud storage. Does PS5 saves? Yeah, they charge for cloud saves as well on PlayStation Plus. You're right, they do. Xbox does not. And Valve, doesn't either. But like those are sorts of the things that you end up getting as a result of Steam, right? You get access to Steam with its wonderful community forums. Ugh. Gross. But you get, hey, you get cloud storage up to a certain point. Like, you can't. If you were a game manufacturer and you said, hey, we're going to store 100 gigs per user in the cloud, I think Valve would be like, how about instead? I'm sure there's caps on it, right? I don't know what the storage limit is per user, but there is something.
You enjoying yourself?
And the ability to download the game again. You're getting a platform that has stuff like Steam Workshop support if that's something that you want your game to be able to do. That it's like you're getting the, by putting your game on Steam and signing that contract with them to distribute your game there. That is what they are bringing to the table. Is not just the Steam audience, which is large. They're also bringing a network of services for users and for developers to use to kind of service the game and play the game going forward. So I don't think it would make sense. I don't think it would make sense on Steam specifically for them to start to charge a separate subscription for cloud saves or anything of that nature. I just don't think it lines up with the ethos that I think that PC gaming signed up, the like PC gaming and the people that sell it in its purer formats. I don't think that it's something that makes a lot of sense there. Does GOG have cloud saves? Does Good Old Games? Or is it a per game thing? Because I know that, I guess they had, but Cyberpunk had a separate thing. But okay, yeah, so we're reaching out to inform you that your cloud this is a support page on GOG. We're reaching out to inform you that your cloud saves files exceed the default allocation limit of 200 megabytes per game. Anything that goes over that will be deleted as of August 31st, 2024. So that looks like they put a per title limit on how much you could store in the cloud. And this is like a user-facing, this isn't to developers to tell developers like, hey, you need to have your games limit to 200 megs per game. This is something they're telling users. So, like GOG's not charging a separate fee for that to players either. I don't see that as, like, I feel like especially on these PC-oriented services, I don't think that makes a ton of sense. Because I think that's, that to me has always been part of what developers are paying for. Because remember, like, the real original value of Steam, the real original pitch from Valve to developers to sell their games on Steam, which was initially just a Counter-Strike distribution mechanism, right? Like Half-Life 2. But part of third-party games appearing on Steam was that patching PC games fucking sucked. And so if you were putting out a PC game and you wanted to update it, you needed to figure out how to get that update into players' hands. And so you either needed to account for that when you were building the game and build a patcher into it, and then you needed to host the files and pay for all that bandwidth yourself. Or, or you didn't have an automatic patcher and you had people that needed to go to a website to find out, hey, there's a patch available, and they needed to download it and manually patch their thing themselves, which led to the rise of, GameSpy and File Planet and, like all of these services. GameSpot launched a client. We launched a client called Game Center, which was a Quake Spy ripoff, and also it was designed to be able to patch games, but it didn't support very many games, and the plug was pulled on it because it was not a great idea. But like, you would have to sit there and wait 30 seconds to download a patch, or you'd have to look at a bunch of ads, and you have to click on this, and then, if you sign up and subscribe, you'll get our fast servers instead of the slow ones. So patch distribution used to be so scattershot, just this buckshot approach, just like, fuck it, man. Like, you could fucking write them a letter and say, can you mail me a floppy disk with the patch on it? And and then some companies had to send them out like that. Because what the fuck is the internet? You'd have to log on to a BBS and download patches for Doom. The Dark Ages, man. Steam came along and said, hey, we can do all that. and it'll all still tie into this. We've got, you know, server browser functionality, you know, so we've got like the Game Spy, the Quake Spy end of this handled, because it's all stuff that we had to build for our own games. We had to do this, and, you know, like, they built all that stuff. And they did not build it incredibly well on day one. Like, you know, Steam was not like an amazing service out of the gate. They had to build that stuff over time and work on it over time. But they solved that problem to where all of the other horseshit, you know, like ways of downloading patches just ceased to exist. Because, you know, you were on Steam or you were on some other platform that offered similar services. The idea of manually going and downloading, like when you launch Warframe, it has a launcher that the first thing it does is go like, all right, we're gonna check for patches, and it does its own patching shit. That's cool. You know, they don't even really use the Steam stuff directly, for whatever reason. I think that's of an amazing, as someone who was playing games on the PC in the early 90s before any of this stuff existed, it is a godsend. Steam has its flaws. The toxic, horrific community, the garbage message boards that if you're a developer, you can't just turn them off. Like, you have to put up with all of that shit. And I think that's a bummer. I wish that stuff was better. And that they moderated it, you know, like there's just a lot of stuff there. You just go like, this stuff doesn't, you know, this stuff is not adding to anyone's experience. But on the level of just maintaining a game, keeping it active and finding out how many other players, you know, if you're using the Steamworks stuff that they have now for, well, whether it's player matching or just all the other stuff that they can do. On Steam, it's really again. If you were playing PC games before that stuff became the standard,
hear me if I was sitting on your face?
Talking about it now, there are still things about Steam that blow me away in that specific context of like, man, it used to be so fucked. It used to be so fucked. Having to manually patch PC games and like, oh, we're trying to play a modem game of Total Annihilation, but this guy downloaded some units he got some units that were on a floppy disk that came with a magazine, and I don't have those. What do I do? Like, roller coaster. Ridiculous. The hoops that you used to have to jump through just to do all of this stuff, and the idea that Steam came along and over time, like not a lot of time, but over, you know, it did, like I said, it took them a while to kind of get more and more of these features in place. They solved all of the big pain points for both developers and players when it came to keeping a game current, playing a game with another person, playing games on the internet, like a lot of stuff. They just found ways to standardize it. And still let you bring your own stuff if you're like, oh, well, whatever, you know, if EA wants to run its own servers, like you can do all that shit, you know, like all of that. But especially for a lot of smaller developers that might not have the resources to put out a fucking patch and host it on their website when all of that stuff cost a lot more money.
They need to put some chairs out
just to do. Yeah, it was yeah, they did a lot. They did a lot for PC gaming.
If you've been
and it's easy to forget that. It's easy to forget that for sure. A couple people wrote it, and we were talking about cloud services last week and the idea that, like, you know, there are going to be people that just don't care enough about quality to, you know, and Darren from New York City wrote in. So I heard your thoughts about cloud gaming. Have you checked out GeForce Now recently? I never expected to be much of a cloud player myself, but the convenience of playing a good chunk of the Game Pass games at 4K 60 is pretty amazing as someone who only owns a PS5. My internet is nothing special, and I can't tell the difference between playing a game like Fortnite or Siege locally versus on GeForce Now with the 5080 tier. Not that NVIDIA needs a cheerleader. You're right there. But to their credit, they've kept the one promise of cloud gaming that I've always found the most compelling. periodic hardware
That's all
updates
my
to
pick.
push the boundaries of how well the games run. They ramped from 3080 to 4080 a few years back, and 5080 earlier this year with no change in price. So I totally get your opinions on some of the other cloud stuff that's out there. You should check out GeForce Now. I looked at GeForce Now. I guess it's coming up on about a year now. When did Assassin's Creed come out? It was right around the time that the last Assassin's Creed was released. Yeah, okay, so that was March of this year. So yeah, I looked at it a little bit then, and yeah, I think I would say that like when cloud gaming works, it works, and some of that is going to be dependent on the game, and some of that's going to be dependent on the hardware. I feel like people with positive things to say about cloud gaming in general are usually talking about GeForce Now over Game Pass or over any of the Sony offering. Though some of that just depends on which ecosystem you're a part of, right? So yeah, I do think that there's some value in that, and you're saying that you can't tell the difference between Fortnite and Siege locally versus in the cloud. Like, that's cool. When that works, it works, right? I think you'll have some players that will be some real down to the millisecond frame specific type of people that are always going to notice that difference. But again, I think there is a wide range of players who won't. I'm not always someone who is like the most latency sensitive person on the planet. But some things do cross a certain threshold where suddenly it goes from like, okay, this is right, to like, something's real bad here. What the hell's going on? And you realize what it is and why. And that's something I experienced locally without the cloud, as someone who worked in a studio where we were splitting an HDMI signal 9 different ways to 9 different screens. If every one of those splitters adds a frame of latency, by the time it gets to the TVs in front of your face, it's just enough to fuck you up in games that require a little bit more precision. And so we had to try to solve for that in different ways. Like, okay, how do we capture this footage for a stream? I still have to deal with it a little bit here. How do we capture this footage for a stream and make sure it's still in an eye line where someone can be looking into a camera and also have the game right there in a way that looks natural and normal? It's very difficult. And some of that comes down to like everything, right? The TVs themselves were not the lowest latency screens in the world. Every single time we're it through a decimator or whatever box the signal has to be run through, half of them add a frame or two, and so by the time you get to the screen, you're already losing.
Or disconnect from that.
What, 5-6 frames, and then the TV itself is not a great low latency screen because we only had the budget to buy them that quarter, and that quarter we could not get the approved retailer list to buy the TVs from didn't have any actually good TVs, so we bought a bunch of bad 4K TVs. Ugh.
You want to hold in? Huh?
Ugh.
Honest with women too, but
Sucks, man. It's just like frustrating. It's like one of those dumb problems that like until you're in the middle of it, you're like, I can't believe that this is now a new problem to have. But I've undergone like smaller versions of it right here in this room with the splitter to the capture card pass through that goes to this screen that like is technically a little bit behind the screen that's over here. But it's more natural for me to look this way while I'm streaming versus turning my entire body. I mean, the eventual answer is to reorganize the entire room and reorganize where everything is and not have to fucking do that. But all of it's a hassle.
Yeah, I like the way you move that. That's a nice ass.
Let's see here. Levi from Los Angeles writes in, maybe I don't even need to read this email. Maybe it's just the subject line where he has written, Game Pass, more like Game Ass. I've been an Xbox Live / Game Pass Ultimate subscriber for 25 years since the start. And with the price hike news, I did the calculus and figured that outside of Avowed and Indiana Jones, I wasn't even reaching the potential value on the old subscription model. I will casually play Call of Duty every 2 or 3 years or so, but I largely feel compelled to keep it because of all the legacy games I have accumulated over the years. That changed when they upped the price. Yeah, it's not, oh yeah, sorry, he said 23 years. I misread it as 25. But yes, I guess 23 is the actual. I think that's the number on my Xbox Live profile is 23 years, 21 years, whatever it is. That changed when they upped the price, so I decided to cancel. I thought maybe they'd give me a don't go option to continue my price for a nominal amount of time, and yet after 23 years of supporting them, I get nothing. Surely they had to know that taking care of decades-long customers would be a worthy investment, but no, just let me cancel with no effort to keep my business. The luster of the 360 era is now gone, and when reflecting, I can't think of the last time I even fired up my Xbox since everything looks and runs better on PC. So in a way, I'm thankful they made this fucking ridiculous cash grab move because I needed to let go of my console gaming ties, and with all their open AI shit, being unable to complete a sentence without jamming in an AI-powered marketing speak, and their increasing support of warfare tech, along with closing numerous studios, I'm out. I can't be alone in this and cannot wait to see how many people like me are doing the same thing. Yeah. Yeah. So the thing I would say is that you're still running games on a PC. And so you're still, even if you're not directly in their ecosystem, you're still close enough to where they might get you back. Maybe you sign up for PC Game Pass at some point. Maybe you buy a game off their store instead of Steam. Unlikely as that may be. It's possible. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah. I get you. I get where you're coming from. That was largely the reaction. You know, I ran a poll. I ran a poll on Spotify because you can do that apparently. I don't know. Speaking of supportive warfare tech, and you know, and said like, hey, are you canceling Game Pass? Are you keeping it, or did you just never have it? And the biggest answer was I didn't have it in the first place, followed by I am canceling it. And then a handful of people saying, yeah, I'm going to keep it. You know, obviously these are small sample sizes and what have you. I'm curious to see. And I don't know that we'll know, right? I mean, at some point they just go like, oh, well, we're no longer going to announce the,
You've been marked by
you know, we're just no longer going to announce these numbers anyway. So, I wonder what we'll hear about just the movement in Game Pass subscriptions. I wonder if more people moved down a tier or if more people canceled. I feel like it's easier to just cancel and reassess, right? Just go like, all right, I'm out. And then if when you're out, if you miss it, then you can evaluate the different tiers of Game Pass and decide if you want to get back in or not. But yeah. Yeah. The price hike is still, it's not happening until November, right? So could you buy a bunch of prepaid cards and like stock up or something? Is that still a weird option for people if they want to try to lock in at a certain price? I don't actually know the answer to that question. I thought it was, I think that's the case, but I don't know for sure. Yeah, you can do that. Okay. Yeah. X Scissors says they bumped me down a tier from gold to essential. Well, it's that they eliminated gold, right? Because gold wasn't a Game Pass tier. It was right. It was like gold was just the Xbox Live gold, and then they turned that into essential. And kind of go that way with it. I don't know. Yeah. Oh, so if you buy cards for tiers that don't exist and redeem them, and they convert. Is that how they do it? I guess they always did do that kind of weird conversion stuff. Last year I bought a bunch of Game Pass cards. Well, the last time they were doing the price hike or something, I forget. I don't know. I think I have like, there was some limit on how much time you could have that I ended up maxing out or something. I forget. But yeah. Matt writes in to say, to me, the value of Game Pass is completely in discovery. I get to try out a ton of games that I normally wouldn't play. Yeah, there's certainly value in that for sure.
Yo, you want to learn some new moves?
And Ani writes in,
Hey, watch yourself.
with a long one, kind of also about the same topic. The console landscape price increases and the recent discussions around Xbox and PlayStation really made me reflect and reevaluate where to buy games. As I age, I have more responsibilities to pay for, and spending $700 on a gaming system keeps being pushed down the priority list. Also, I only play about 3 or 4 big games a year, with many more indie and puzzle games. My entry into this generation was a Series S with Game Pass, but with the Game Pass price increase, my decision tree is really thrown for a loop. As an additional note, I prefer not to game on the PC, as I work at a computer all day and would like to be in a different room and on the couch. Currently, I own a Series S, a Steam Deck, and a Switch. Here's how I used to buy games. Step 1. If I've never played it before and it's on Game Pass, I'll play it on Game Pass. If not, I will purchase on Series S or Steam to play on Steam Deck, depending on whether it's a graphically demanding game or not. Graphically demanding games going to the Series S and Steam Deck or not. If I've played the game and I really love it and see myself replaying it down the line, I would collect a physical copy for the Switch if available. This is a really involved system you've got here. I was thinking at some point I would buy a PlayStation 5 to buy physical games for the PS5, but it hasn't happened yet. I've been wanting but holding off on buying a PS5 for a long time because I'm a huge fan of single-player narrative open world single-player narrative action games like God of War and Last of Us. But the PS5 has not really had any that were very good or were focused on a niche that I'm not super into, like Ghost of Yotei, which is a great game, by the way. The couple interesting ones like MGS Delta, Cyberpunk, and Death Stranding also came out on the Series S. Now with Game Pass being unaffordable, I will have to digitally buy all of my games for the first time. Should I finally bite the bullet and buy a PS5 or ride the Series S into next gen? For what it's worth, I'm not someone who cares too deeply about graphical fidelity and will probably get a Switch 2 for the physical games and niche exclusives there. You don't need it now. Man. You could buy a PS5 and go down that road, but here we are talking about a PlayStation 6 in 2 years. So are you going to buy a PS5 for the highest price they've ever been sold for, and then replace it in 2 years, which they'll support the PS5 for years to come. If the last generation was any indication, there'll be PS5 games for another 7 years anyway. So maybe it's not that big of a deal. You could always go down the road, if you really want to play games on a TV, you could hook that Steam Deck up to a TV. You could get a computer and hook it up to a TV if you really want to jump through those hoops. I get that that's not for everybody. I'm technically doing it, and I will tell you, it's weird. It's cool also, but it's weird. I understand that some people are just never going to want to do that. You want to get shot, huh? That said,
You so kind.
the thing about building up a library of PC games is that you also, there's a lot of stuff we talked about, right? But there's also the kind of future options, right? When you buy a game on a Steam Deck, if we take past performance as an indicator of how the future will go there, no matter what computer you end up with 10 years from now, it'll play some of those same Steam games. The Xbox stuff is really up in the air, right? I mean, I don't know what they'll do for backwards compatibility on Xbox going forward. I think that is one of the weirder things about about where Xbox is that I don't think there's a great answer for, because they've indicated that like Xbox Play Anywhere is kind of a big deal for them. But if you bought a bunch of third-party games on an Xbox, what happens when the Xbox Series consoles are retired in favor of a thing that's basically a PC? Like, are those games are they going to come up with a way to run those games on newer Xboxes, quote unquote? Or are they just going to leave those games behind? Are they going to finally end their wonderful history of backwards compatibility in an industry that is not great? There's really no great ways to do backwards compatibility, the way that we actually want it. But in a world where it has to be a business thing, I think Xbox has done quite a good job with backwards compatibility over the years. Are they willing to walk away from that? Because, hey, these are PCs now and, whatever. Or are they going to do the work to ensure that Xbox 360 games continue to run on whatever is an Xbox 5 years from now? I don't know. They could do that work. That work is very doable. But I don't have the answer to that question. I would have thought it would have been a no-brainer to do, but Microsoft is in such weird, uncharted territory. They're just so fucking weird these days that it's just like, I don't know, man. I don't know what they're going to do. Yeah, install Xenia. I don't know. It's an open platform anyway. Who knows? I feel like my gut reaction here with the way things are right now and realizing that new consoles are probably 2 years around the corner, I think it would be difficult to advocate for buying a PlayStation 5 right now, depending on what you want to play and when you want to play it, I guess. There'll be Grand Theft Auto 6 at some point, right? If you care about that, then I guess get a PlayStation. I don't know. There are no easy answers right here, right now. Because, we may eventually get to a point where the next Xbox is also a PC. And maybe there's value there for you because the Steam Deck library you've been building is now something you can more easily play and more powerfully play on a television. Right? I feel like the answer right now is like, give it 6 months. I don't know. And see where some of this stuff settles. If we start hearing more information about what is likely to happen next, maybe that would be just to kind of get the lay of the land, because I feel like everything is in such an awkward place right now that sometimes it's just hard to say. And that's going to do it for the podcast this week. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll play some games this week. I am playing a couple of different Xbox video games, not on an Xbox right now. They've got a couple coming up here that I don't think we can do anything with tomorrow, but we'll play some games tomorrow. And then Thursday, that Xbox Ally thing is coming out, and so I have pre-ordered one of those against my better judgment. I have pre-ordered one of those, and I'll go grab it on Thursday and get a sense of what the hell that thing is going to be. And we'll talk about that soon. And then that Double Fine game is out like Keeper is out like this week, and then Outer Worlds 2 is not too far off either. Battlefield is. Katamari's out. All I know is that the new Katamari's out on the 20th. Is out next Friday. That's all I know. And then the Mortal Kombat thing is out at the end of the month, right? Anyway. Take care of yourself. I will see you next week on the podcast, or I will see you tomorrow with some stuff. We'll hang out. We'll do some gaming. We'll catch up, and it'll stop raining. I think it's going to stop raining tonight. So yeah, I'll see you soon. Bye.
Did you see that, Dan?
I did. We need to start cleaning up in 1 minute. We're almost on it. Been on here too long.
Warning!
Yeah. Yeah. Says it's not that hot yet. Yeah.
Abuelo.
Thanks.
I want brawn, not brains, and you have neither. Hey, what you doing?
Forgive me, but I need this car.